So you can make a spoof on Godzilla, but try not to copy it. Got it, make it exactly the same. Will do. I'm Araknie, and this is a review of both the King of the Monsters arcade games. That's because explaining the first one will go by fast, so even if they are pretty different, it's better if I group them together. What are those games? Well, depends. They are different one from the other. The first one is a one-on-one fighting game. The second one is a beat 'em up with many unique elements that distinguish it from games of the genre even today. But they both share one major thing. They are games celebrating kaiju. That means specifically the Japanese tradition, that still was going strong when these two games released, of making movies about giant monsters wrecking cities. Some with a message, others just completely mindless. I say was because it's not anymore. Aside from the rare release, these movies don't get made these days. People just stopped going to see them in the early 2000s. They were considered all act and went out of style. But let's get into what's this all about, the games. The first King of the Monsters is a wrestling game without a story. No eons or marks here to be found. That's pretty disappointing. At least it manages to make wrestling finally interesting from the boring stage kicking and screaming. Try watching Real Box, the one without headgear. Now that's a sport. What you'll do is just lug it out, grab, lunge people, bite them, squeeze them, all that kind of stuff. It's more grabs than anything else. I didn't say wrestling just for style points. It's pretty quick too, so it's truly like a good version of that old spectacle. There's also ropes in a way of electrical energy barriers that shoot you around. Taking advantage of those once you're thrown is pretty important to saving yourself the trouble of getting pinned. Because there's that too, you get the 3 count when you're down if they manage to land on you. Because your health is really not that, it's stamina. The lower it is, the often the chance that you'll get the pin and lose. You also destroy every Japanese city you're in, and it's a good idea because the more people you kill, the more bonus points you get. If you never get it, to say the dreaded number 3. This is a good base, but here comes the problem. Every encounter gets harder. They get more health, you don't. They do more damage, you do less. It has scaling without making you scale too. This ain't like Red Earth where you level up and it gets harder only as much as the experience points you got against the previous enemy. Nope, it's fixed. It gets so hard where you're forced to lose 3 to 5 times against the last 4 enemies of the ladder. Out of 12 of them, yeah, it's too many of them. Too many fights, too long a ladder. There's just 6 of them, so you're gonna get to fight everybody 2 times and have 2 mirror matches. One of them is the final boss. That is really bad. It's already a very long playthrough and you don't even get a unique final boss. That's just disappointing. Also, the ending is the same for every character. After playing 2 of them and spending almost 2 hours with the game, I was done. This is just not enough. I would have been fine with a semi-mirror match, a different powered up version of yourself, so they could partially reuse the sprite and put in an original attack for good measure, but no luck here. All the beasts also have the same stats. I don't understand the point of making an egg load of enemies just to make them all functionally equal. Never got that. Might as well make only one then and make unique enemies that then you fight. Feels like a waste of development time, but hey, whatever floats your boat. The presentation carries it. All the little details in the cities, how different things get destroyed and explode is always interesting. The kaiju themselves are quite boring. 3 out of 6 are interesting because they're rip-offs. King Kong, Godzilla and Ultraman respectively. The other 3 are a good example how boring character design can get. A glop of mud? Wow. Also a rock golem and a giant scarab. They're basically nothing. Even if very tactlessly, they destroy historical monuments and buildings like the Emperor Palace in Kyoto, previously known as Edo. And I was really embarrassed by their choice to have nuclear monsters fight and throw exploding bombs and lasers in Hiroshima, with lots of landmarks getting destroyed and the ruins in the background. I can't deal with this level of crassness. It came out of left field and hit me like a camera to the face. Musically, I found it really weak. It's not something that anybody non-Japanese that is over 50 years old in 2024 will even understand. They chose to make the 6 city teams in the style en vogue in that location in 1991. So you're there fighting in Hiroshima and listening to some soulful melody that invites a heart-to-heart. Sure, it's a good melody, but it doesn't fit at all. There's a pretty hard rock one, but the rest seem to be made for some educational CD-ROM. Sure, it would be memorable in an Encarta collection, but here not so much. I would love to hear these tracks while flying in a mid-90s CGI rendition of Planet Earth just when I reach Japan and get blasted by incredible enjoyment. The entire style and tone clash so hard here that it's baffling. Even the credits are incredible. I was mouth open speechless the first time I saw them. News anchorman gets hit by boulder, sorrowful credits music start playing, and you get the names of the developers with funny caricatures drawn to show them to you. And when it's over, black and white image in the ruins of a dead arm dangling out of a crashed car. I guess in 1991 cocaine was still of really good quality from the last remnants of the boom of the 80s. There's no other explanation. If sober people thought that nuclear wastelands are funny, they need to be studied. In conclusion, I think I'll be pretty generous to give King of the Monsters a 6 out of 10. It's just good enough to not be a disaster and has enough personality to not be mediocre either. It's just often misplaced, but they sure had creativity to spare in certain areas and forgot about all of that in the important ones, like the gameplay. But what are sequels for if not to show the world that a concept deserves a second chance? Unfortunately, all they changed they did for the worse because they removed all the things I liked and put in a bunch of quarter-eating shit. King of the Monsters 2 The Next Thing is an appropriate title indeed. Here's the next thing. They kept the 3 interesting character designs but changed everything else. But I only played with one of them because a single playthrough took me 1 hour and a half and I didn't even get a personalized ending. The story doesn't help, it's just a boring mess. New aliens invade! You think a giant brain is the mastermind behind all this, but then you defeat it. So you get a menace from a voice from somewhere telling you, beware, I'm coming. You better believe it, they're gonna destroy your ass and make you lose quarters, but we'll get there. Not that I wanna make this too long, but I gotta rant about a couple things because this is a really beloved game. For me, it doesn't fit what I wanted after the first entry. I wanted more wrestling, more technically and more combos. And it's less on all 3 fronts. They gave me levels like 1 minute of exploration before having the bosses and it's really little, like it was a mandate. So it's not the same slugfest as before but refined. No level boundaries acting like ropes this time around, for example. Even less moves than before. Kick, punch and a grab, not even grab variety. A jump attack with weird timing that works 2 out of 5 times. And that's it. Plus they made over-tuning the grab require even faster button mashing like it wasn't hard enough. But that's not it. You remember how both you and your enemies had stamina so you could be out of breath? Well, you still do, but your enemies don't. You can just call this what it is. Stupid. Otherwise, it's an intentional, malicious, conscious decision made to make you spend quarters in great quantity. Pick your poison. So they get to act immediately after being thrown to the ground, but you gotta regain your footing and all that. Fantastic idea. Why don't you flagellate my testicles while you're at it? There's a bit more interactivity with the stages, but it's only for removing stuff from the ground and throw it. Not that special. Consider that when your character is out of breath, you'll have to button mash here too. That's why after taking 90 minutes to finish one playthrough, I didn't do it as the other 2 kaijus. My arms were sore. I just couldn't play no more. It's ridiculous. But I needed rest. Anyway, with all this trash heap of decisions, the bosses become a long and desperate grind. And to add insult to injury, they decided to make one go into a shell very often, so you can't even grab it, because punching and kicking does little to no damage. So of course, the final boss is ungrabbable. It's a big blob that you have to punch and kick. It also takes 75% of the screen and you can't literally escape. Game design went for a pack of cigarettes. Don't worry, it will come back soon. Oh no, it won't. Graphically I'll say it's good, but it doesn't stand out with an interesting art style. I'm seeing many games look like this at this point. How to describe it better? Well, I'll call it a 90s sports video game. Things look defined, like the muscles, buildings have detail. The placement of everything is done to give the most visual variety because the gameplay is slow. You need to look at this for a really long time. Especially since boss battles take so long in this title in particular. The soundtrack is decent, but I couldn't shake the feeling they wanted to sound like Turtles in Time from Konami. Some tracks even sound perfectly similar or close enough to that OST. The melodies and choices made for the samples are just too close to it to ignore sometimes. It's a pity because while good I was constantly thinking about that other title. Get out of my brain, please. Please? Fine, you can stay. So let's conclude before I finally lose it. It's half the game of the original was, and that's why King of the Monsters, the new whatever, gets a 3 out of 10. Having the fortitude to finish video games is not always a blessing. Drop all the games that you don't wanna finish, don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. If you wanna see me play the games that I will review plus some extra stuff, catch me on Twitch at Araknie Retro. It's my natural habitat, you see? Until next time, ciao ciao!